welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, update news, and manager news show. We've got lots to talk about. There's links to loads of managers. Ollie has not been announced. Carrick has not been announced. Ineos have not decided yet. That's expected to happen in the next couple of days. But we do have lots to talk about in regards to Jim Ratcliffe, the manager front, Carlo Ancelotti wanting the job, Pochettino being looked at for the summer, and more coming in from reliable reports. And we'll talk about the latest on the likes of Ole. We'll talk about the latest on the likes of Carrick as well. And then I would say transfer news, but Man United seem to be doing sweet F all in the transfer market. But there is a few rumours of United might look at Fermin Lopez to replace Bruno Fernandes with from a very bad source. There was reports that Bruno Fernandes was going to leave for 100 million in January from a very bad source. In terms of reliable sources, it's Xerxes may go to Roma. Maino is now set to stay. United might bring in a midfielder. United might let a guy go if a midfielder is available. That's sort of what's been said from reliable sources as well. Apparently, Gabriel Bianchiri is going to go out on loan this month. Rumours that we could include JJ Gabriel in our squad for the FA Cup, and more to get into. So look, I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're having a good Friday. And it feels weird that it's Friday. I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's because it's been Christmas, but the last couple of weeks, I keep forgetting what day of the week it is. I feel like I feel like I need to get back into the swing of things. I kept thinking yesterday it was Friday and today was Saturday. And then I was like, oh, is there football on today? No, there's not. It's Friday. Don't know what it is. Don't know what it is this week. But yeah, I'm doing all good. No way Ancelotti wants United is busy with Brazil. Will it be after the World Cup? And we're going to talk about that. So let's dive into the stories, the news, everything that we should talk about. And I want to talk about Ratcliffe's involvement because, to be honest, I don't like Ratcliffe's involvement at United. Now, I'm going to say one thing before I even get into that. The Glazers are a bigger problem than Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe has invested his own money into the club. I think Ratcliffe is trying hard to make things work at Man United. And I think that's why Ratcliffe's getting so involved, because he thinks he knows how to run a football club when maybe he doesn't, and he's trying hard to make it work. He's invested his own money in the club. Ratcliffe is 10 times better than the Glazers. But Ratcliffe himself still isn't great. I'm going to just clarify that. Now, obviously, we're hearing stuff that appointing Amorim was not a unanimous decision among the hierarchy. You bring in a manager that the hierarchy can't agree on, and the manager fails. Shock. Dan Ashworth, who was the most experienced in his role, got sacked because he didn't want to bring in Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim, who failed. Could Ruben Amorim have succeeded had Ineos signed a midfielder, had Ineos signed an attacking wingback? Maybe it would have been better. His system wasn't great, but maybe it would have been better. But Amorim failed. Amorim had a 32% win rate. Amorim is statistically the worst manager we've had in a while. Yes, Amorim was sixth when he was sacked, but he was sixth 1 point ahead of a Brentford side that had lost Thomas Frank and Boomer and Visser. I feel like we were sixth because everyone in the league has fallen off. I think we have improved. We're scoring more goals. We don't have an idiot in goal because Le Mans is actually quite smart. I saw a hate tweet on Le Mans. I saw a tweet. It got 3,000 likes from Man United fans saying that Le Mans is crap. Mate, do you want Onana back? Le Mans there's definitely some goals where I think Le Mans could have done better for, where maybe his inexperience has shown. But we would have conceded about 7 more goals this season if Onana was in net. You look at the last couple of games, the Leeds game, Le Mans is the reason. Le Mans is the reason in the Leeds game we didn't lose with some good saves. The Wolves game, we would have lost to Wolves if Le Mans didn't make some great. We would have lost to Wolves if Le Mans didn't make some great saves. So thank you very much. Yes, the Brighton game we could have done better, but first of all, don't get Le Mans hate. We are better this season. We've got better attackers. We're scoring more goals. We haven't got an idiot in the net. But yes, Ruben Amorim was sick, but we're 1 point ahead of Brentford at the time, who'd lost this player and that manager. I feel like the league is weak. But I feel like, Ruben Amorim did fail at United, but it wasn't all his fault. And I've always said, I think Ruben Amorim probably needed to be sacked, but I said I will never celebrate Ruben Amorim being sacked, despite myself thinking he should be sacked, because I don't trust the next manager. And it's not that I don't trust the next manager, it's I don't trust Ineos to get it right. For me, Ruben Amorim wasn't good enough. Ruben Amorim needed to go. But I will never celebrate Ruben Amorim being sacked. I wanted Ruben Amorim to turn it around. I wanted Ruben Amorim to prove me wrong. Because I worry for the next manager. You know, sacking Ruben Amorim, I think, was the right decision. But am I confident the next manager comes in and succeeds? Yes, I wanted Ruben Amorim to adapt to a back four. Yes, I wanted Ruben Amorim to go. But that doesn't mean I'm confident that the next manager comes and succeeds, because they still got to work with the same idiot board that are here. And, you know, when you hear stuff that when we appointed Amorim, Jason Wilcox said no and Dan Ashworth said no, who have more experience on the football side of things than Barada, and obviously have 10 times more experience than Ratcliffe when it comes to working in a football club, that they said no to Amorim, but Ratcliffe and Barada said yes, and Ratcliffe and Barada overrided them, that makes you concerned. That makes you concerned because you're like, so you bring in a manager who flops, you tell the manager you want to play a completely different way to the way that you know he plays, but you didn't agree on the hierarchy. And I think this is why we're bringing in an interim, because you've got now until the end of the season for the whole board to agree on who we should bring in the summer. Because I think they've realised maybe we should have kept Ruud van Nistelrooy, maybe we rushed the Amorim appointment, maybe we didn't think the Amorim appointment through because he would have needed this, and this to make it succeed, and we physically couldn't get all that because it was so much, it was so different to Ten Hag ball. Maybe they've realised that. But when you hear stuff like that, it doesn't fill you with confidence. But I do feel like Jim Ratcliffe is getting too involved. Barada and Ratcliffe are strong advocates for appointing Ruben Amorim. Ratcliffe held strong supportive conversations with Amorim early on and backed him. Over time, Ratcliffe developed views about United needing to play a back four, and this led to Jason Wilcox to become a more forceful on pushing that direction. Now, I said I don't like how involved Jim Ratcliffe's getting. First of all, he chooses to appoint Amorim and overrides Ashworth and Wilcox. Second of all, he's telling Amorim or telling Wilcox to tell Amorim to change his style of play. I put that on Twitter, and then I got loads of comments saying, but Alice, you've been saying on X and YouTube the whole time that Ruben Amorim needs to adapt and Ruben Amorim needs to change to a back four. Why are you annoyed that Ratcliffe's gone to Ruben Amorim and done that? Because Jim Ratcliffe should not be telling Ruben Amorim what to do. I have the opinion that Ruben Amorim should have adapted. And Jason Wilcox went to Amorim and said, you should adapt because we played a few games with a back four, we looked better, we went to a back five versus Wolves, it was crap. Jason Wilcox went to Ruben Amorim and told him to adapt. Yeah? I think Ruben Amorim should have adapted. I think Ruben Amorim should have changed. I think Ruben Amorim stubborn. I think we're better in a back four. But the reason I don't like that, even though I agree with it, and I think Ruben Amorim should have adapted, is because Jim Ratcliffe is the owner of this club, or the part owner of this club. But he's not ran a football club before. He's not a footballing expert. And he's telling Jason Wilcox to tell Ruben Amorim he's got to play this way. Now, as a fan, we all want Ruben Amorim to play a back four. We all want Ruben Amorim to adapt. But they brought Ruben Amorim in, knowing he plays a back three, despite warnings from Ashworth and Wilcox. You brought Ruben Amorim in, knowing he plays a 3-4-3, telling him you were going to do this, this, and this, and you were going to back him to play his 3-4-3. And then you realise his 3-4-3 is crap because you got your decision to point Ruben Amorim wrong because you ignored Ashworth and Wilcox. So you go, actually, can you play a forward back? Which, to be honest, that's exactly how I felt. Ruben Amorim's decision was wrong. I think he should have gone to a foot at the back. I think he should have adapted. But I just think he's getting too involved. Like, you appointed him to play a 3-4-3. You told him you were going to do this, this, and this. You didn't get this and this in the summer. It obviously wasn't working. Ruben Amorim needed to adapt. And it was worrying that Ruben Amorim didn't realise he needed to adapt. But as the owner of Man United, who is not a footballing expert, you going to Ruben Amorim and saying, you've got to do this, this, and this, of course it's going to pee Ruben Amorim off. We could say as fans, Ruben Amorim needs to adapt and Ruben Amorim should go to back four. But we didn't appoint Ruben Amorim at this club. We didn't tell Ruben Amorim we were going to do this, this, and this for him just to go round to Ruben Amorim and say, actually, do this. You know, if I was owner of Man United, I'd love to be able to influence the club and say to Ruben Amorim, oh, why are you playing a back five? You need to play a back three, la, 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 la. You need to play a back four, la, 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 la. But if I was owner of Man United, I wouldn't do that. If I was owner of Man United, I would just put all my money into the club and employ the best people in each role to make the footballing decisions for me. Because, you know, we all like to think we know best. We all like to think, oh, this would be the best manager, or that would be the best manager, or we should sign this player and we should sign that player. But none of us are footballing experts. None of us have experience in a footballing job. So if I was owner of Man United, as much as I like to think we need to sign Elliot Anderson, this player, that player, you know, I would employ someone to do that. I think we should sign Elliot Anderson. But if I was owner of Man United and I employed loads of people that were experts in their field and they said, no, we should sign this guy instead of Elliot Anderson, I would listen to them But I feel like Jim Ratcliffe doesn't do that. I feel like Jim Ratcliffe is getting very involved. I feel like Jim Ratcliffe is getting too involved. Everyone believed in the Amorim hype, and there's still a section of the fan base who believe it. Yeah, I mean, I had someone say to me the other day that they brought into the Amorim hype, they really thought Amorim was going to be the guy, and they didn't think Amorim should be sacked. But now Amorim's been sacked, and they look back at it now, they're probably like, it was the right decision. I think Amorim had a level of hype because of what he did at Sporting. There was like, Amorim did this, this, and this at Sporting. He won the league tables, and I think it's really easy to buy into the Amorim hype. I think the fact that we've sacked so many managers and the next manager comes in and fails, I understand why people were Amorim in. I understand why people were Amorim in because of what he did at Sporting. It was easy to buy into the hype. This manager, proved at Sporting if he was given resources and time, he could turn a club around, he could succeed. But you could say the same about Ten Hag. He comes to United, he fails. You could say the same about Mourinho. He's won everywhere he's gone, but he didn't do enough at Man United. I think it was very easy to buy into the Ruben Amorim hype, but this was the Portuguese league. Ten Hag was the Eredivisie league. Ten Hag had just as much success as Ruben Amorim, if not more success as Ruben Amorim, more success than Ruben Amorim before coming to Man United. Ten Hag, obviously I was never really Ten Hag out because of the FA Cup, because of the Carabao Cup, because he finished third, whereas I was Ruben Amorim out because he finished 15th and lost the Europa League final. I feel like Ten Hag brought a bit of time. But, it's easy, I think, to buy into the hype of each manager, but I do think Ruben Amorim should have been sacked. I know he did great at Sporting, but he just looked so far off at Man United. I do think he should have been sacked. But a lot of people are out here saying that Ruben Amorim being sacked is a disgrace and that he would have succeeded. And I've not saw enough of Ruben Amorim to think he would have succeeded. I think the fact that he was sacked because he called out the board and he orchestrated his own sacking rather than because of his performances was a disgrace. But yeah. Where are you getting Wilcox said no to Amorim when he was appointed? It was reported, I don't know who it was, I think it was Laurie Whitwell, The Athletic. It was reported that Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth had concerns around Ruben Amorim playing a back three, but Ratcliffe and Barada pushed it. Like, I'm not making that up. It was reported, and I did a video on it earlier this week, that it was Ashworth and Wilcox that had reservations around Amorim. Do you know what I mean? Ratcliffe is a clown. He's made a laughing stock out of himself and us. He's just getting too involved. There was an article somewhere about Wilcox not wanting Amorim, and I think it was The Athletic as well. They only want an ex-player to take the heat off them so the transfer window can pass and make more excuses and more lies. They really have to go. I agree with Stephen here. I think they weren't going to do anything in January. And I think sacking Ruben Amorim and being linked to new managers distracts us from the fact that it's January 9th and we've not brought anyone in or not made any attempts to bring anyone in when we need a midfielder. We need a midfielder when Amorim was here. We need a midfielder now Amorim's not here. We need a midfielder regardless of who the manager is. We're going to play a midfield three now. We've got 4 midfielders. It's nuts. What's been said here? This long-term vision of playing and developing youth is never going to work with any top manager. The winners, not squad developers. I think people misunderstand what people mean when they say they want youth to play. Like, if we went and played loads of academy players, it's not going to work. But every now and then you get an academy player that's quite special and you're like, give him some minutes. Like, for me, Jack Fletcher admitted it himself after the game, he's not ready yet. And that's fine. He's just turned 18. Like, if you look at some of the best players in world football, they were not ready to play in the Premier League at 18. And I think one of the issues we have with fans is because of Lamine Yamal and the Pedris and the stuff. If a young player is playing in the Premier League at 19 or 18 and they look a bit inconsistent, fans go, oh, they're just not the level. They're just not going to be good enough. When you look at Semenyo was playing in League One at 18, 19. He's now got a big move to Man City and every club in the Premier League wanted him. Some of the best players in the Premier League, were nowhere near the level at 18, 19. Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, Virgil van Dijk. You've got to remember they weren't near this level at 18, 19. And Jack Fletcher admitted himself, it was tough. He found it tough. It's another level. Jack Fletcher could be a fantastic player in 5 years' time, could be starting for us and could be our best player in 5 years' time, or he might not be good enough for Man United. But we're not going to know that now. We know right now Jack Fletcher isn't good enough. He admitted himself. But you get every academy, you get the odd Kobbie Mainoo, who came in, was fantastic, won us the FA Cup final, proved that he was good enough to play for England at 18, and that's very rare. When I say throw on an academy player, I'm talking about Shea Lacey. When we are 1-1 against West Ham and there's 10 minutes to go, would you rather us bring on Maguire, or would you rather us bring on Shea Lacey and try and beat West Ham, who are going to go down? Shea Lacey and try and beat West Ham is going to go down. I'm not saying go and bring on Fletcher, Mantato, Sekou Kone and Shea Lacey and play the youth. I'm just saying every year there's the odd player in the academy that I think is a different level that could make an impact. Jack Fletcher is not ready to make an impact, but Shea Lacey is. I believe that. He might not be quite good enough for us now and good enough to start, but I believe sometimes when you need a goal and there's no one else on the bench, it's good to give Shea Lacey a minute here and there. We shouldn't be relying on the youth, but we should be able to, look at the odd youth player here and there. I think there's sort of that mix of, you wanted Amorim to play the youth aren't good enough. No, I didn't want Amorim to play the youth. I just wanted Amorim to give Shea Lacey 10 minutes instead of subbing on Maguire when you're playing a 10-man Everton and you're 1-0 down. Do you know what I mean? That's what I wanted to see. But I want to talk about the manager news. I want to talk about Ancelotti because I haven't got into that as well. You need to read the article again. You're so wrong. I can get the article up if you want, but the article last week literally said that Wilcox didn't want Amorim. He raised concerns over Amorim's back three. There's literally an article that came out last week that we made a video on it that Wilcox had concerns over Ruben Amorim, and his back three. And if I can find the article, I'll get it up. It was said that Wilcox wanted Amorim to switch to a back four, which caused a fallout. But there was reports coming out that Jason Wilcox raised concerns around Ruben Amorim before we even appointed him, and so did Dan Ashworth. If I can find the report, I'll get it up in another video. But I'm not making it up. There was a report that came out last week. Dorgu's has impressed me playing on the right and left. I think Dorgu and Cunha should have swapped wings last game, but Dorgu's done all right the last few games. What are we saying? Give the likes of Lacey time, they will come good. Fletcher will as well. Don't throw them in the deep end. Yeah, Fletcher definitely would need a loan and another year in the academy. Lacey, you never know, might need a loan. Someone said kids don't have a future at this club, unfortunately. I mean, I think Lacey could potentially be a really good player. I think Lacey could potentially be a really good player, but if Lacey gets a few starts and he looks a bit lost and he looks a bit physically out of it, that doesn't mean that Lacey isn't good enough. That just means Lacey's a young kid and he's not like Lamine Yamal and, he might be good enough at 21. You look at Salah at that age. But I think Lacey off the bench could definitely make an impact. Like some people say starting versus Brighton could be interesting to see. Apparently Dorgu never played wingback before he came to United. Yeah. How dare Amorim assault our academy? I think the beginning of the downfall for Ruben Amorim was when he made those comments on the academy to make himself look better. Like the fact that he basically was like, I came 15th last season, but I had to play Fredrickson, Chido, Mainoo and Amas. That's why I came 5th. Like he was basically trying to blame. I just thought that was uncalled for. Like Harry Amas has done very well. I think Amorim's comments on the academy was probably the beginning of the end for him. To be honest, he obviously not a good look as a Man United manager. But anyway, let's continue into the news. But big up Gaz, big up everybody in the chat. I've got a question for you guys in the chat. Who would you bring in as our next manager? But I'm going to share what Adam said in regards to Ratcliffe being too involved, because I agree. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said his intention is to leave footballing decisions at Manchester United to the people he's hired, not to run the sporting side himself. Coaches and executives control football matters. He openly discussed recruitment, managers and mistakes in interviews, accepting responsibility for big strategic calls and appointments and dismissals. That means little, though, based on where we are now. When influence becomes interference, it's a problem. And I think Adam has probably said that better than me. Jim Ratcliffe said he's here, but he's going to leave the footballing decisions with the footballing people at the club. He's not done that. And Jim Ratcliffe is interfering. And I think Jim Ratcliffe is getting too involved. Leave the footballing decisions with the football people. Do I agree with Jim Ratcliffe that Ruben Amorim should have adapted, that Ruben Amorim should have gone to a back four? Yes. Me and Ratcliffe share the same opinion. But you said, I'm going to leave the footballing decisions to footballing people. Jim Ratcliffe is interfering too much. Too much for my liking. Amorim reverting to a back three against the struggling Wolves was seen as eternally alarming. And I agree. We look better in a back three. We look better in a back four. We play the worst team in the league. We go back to a back three. And we should have lost to Wolves. If it wasn't for Le Mans, we would have lost to Wolves at home. The worst team in the league. The decision triggered conversations among United's power brokers. Tensions came to a head at Friday's meeting. Wilcox raised concerns that players were not aligned with Amorim's ideas, and Amorim reacted badly to that feedback, breaking down relations. Amorim orchestrated his exit because he was fed up with being told what to do, which you can say fair play to Amorim, but Amorim probably should have adapted, and I think Amorim failing to realise he needed to adapt is the reason he was never successful at Man United. When you manage a big club like Man United, you have to be adaptable. Pep adapts a lot. Klopp adapts a lot. And Amorim's stubbornness is probably the reason he failed. But I get why Amorim was angry. I get why Amorim orchestrated his exit, because he's like, you told me you were going to do this, this, and this. You're now telling me how to play. I get why Ruben Amorim didn't like it. But let's talk about the manager situation. Let's talk about who's going to come in. Because I am worried. I am worried, people. I'm not going to deny that. You know, I don't trust Ineos to get the right next manager in. And I worry for the next manager that they're not going to get the backing. I said that Ruben Amorim needs to go because all the statistics under Ruben Amorim are so dreadful compared to all other managers. But I said I will not celebrate if Ruben Amorim sacked. In fact, I will not celebrate in the slightest if Ruben Amorim sacked because I will worry for the next manager. Ruben Amorim being sacked doesn't instantly mean that we're going to get better and look miles better, because I worry for the next manager. I worry that Ineos will appoint the wrong next manager. You know? And there's a lot of manager talk. There's a lot of this and that. Oh, yeah, there's this article. You know what? This is the one thing I don't get. This is the one thing about this article I don't get. Ashworth left the club about 3 weeks after Ruben Amorim was appointed. Ashworth left the club about 3 weeks after Ruben Amorim was appointed. This is screaming club brief. Do you know what this is screaming? Ineos are getting a lot of stick for sacking Dan Ashworth, so let's brief that Amorim wasn't happy with him. They worked together for about 3 weeks. Amorim spent a year and 4 months with Wilcox and Barada, but he wasn't impressed with Ashworth, who he worked with for about 3 weeks. If that. I mean, was it even 3 weeks? Like, what was it even 3 weeks? Because Ashworth was sacked in November, right? Or was it December? When was what day was Ashworth sacked? Bear with me a sec. Ashworth was sacked. Let's actually figure this out, because it don't make sense when you deep it. Okay. He must have been sacked not long after Ruben Amorim came in. Ashworth was sacked on the 8th of December. Ruben Amorim first Man United game was in November 2024. So Ashworth and Amorim didn't even spend a month. On November 24th, Ruben Amorim came in. Ashworth was sacked on December 8th. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Amorim wasn't impressed with Ashworth's work at the club. They were together 2 weeks. That is stinking of Ineos brief. That is stinking of Ineos brief. Ineos are getting stick for sacking Dan Ashworth, so they've definitely briefed that Amorim wasn't happy with Ashworth's work at the club. Ashworth and Amorim spent 2 weeks together. He spent 1 year and 4 months with Wilcox, 1 year and 4 months at Barada. I think Ashworth was the least of Amorim's problems. That's definitely PR nonsense. That's got to be PR nonsense for sure. December 8th, he was sacked, and Ruben Amorim came in November 24th. 2 weeks. Yeah, that's got to be nonsense there. But anyway, I like Duncan Castles. I think he's a good journalist. I think he's got good sources. I think there's been a bit of a brief there. But Pochettino is a candidate for United job. I believe United will go for Poch. I don't think he's going to be our next manager, but I think he will be on our list. I think Ineos will have a list of 5 managers. I think Poch will be on there. Why? Because they probably think they can boss Poch around. You look at Poch at Tottenham, didn't get much resources, didn't get much money, could be a bit of a yes man, boom. I think Ineos will like Poch. I don't know if he would come to United. I don't know, but I think Ineos would like Poch. But he struggled at PSG. When at Chelsea, Ancelotti confirmed he always wanted an opportunity to manage United before he retired. There is talk of, after the Brazil World Cup, Ancelotti would be open to Man United job. Man United want a Man United star level manager. Some sources say we want Premier League proven. Iraola Glasner, please avoid. Other sources say Man United want a top manager like an Ancelotti, a Tuchel, a Diego Simeone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But apparently Ancelotti himself is open to the Man United job. So after the Brazil and after the World Cup, maybe Ancelotti comes in. But we will see. Carlo can't save this team these days. He's a counter-attacking manager. I mean, we're a counter-attacking team, to be honest. But I know what you mean. I have concerns around Glasner and Iraola. So I thought Thomas Frank was going to be a success at Tottenham, and he's been pretty shocking. I was a big fan of Thomas Frank, and I thought he was going to be very good, but he's been pretty shocking. What I feel like with Iraola and Glasner is, if I look at Bournemouth and I look at Crystal Palace, they struggle when they're expected to dominate possession, those two sides. Particularly Bournemouth. As soon as you give Bournemouth more of the ball, they struggle. As soon as you give Palace more of the ball, they've struggled. Man United under Ruben Amorim, when we had more of the ball, have struggled. I just don't know if I think we should go for Glasner or Iraola, because I think the cracks in their management are showing this season that they struggle when they're expected to do a bit more with the ball. And I think, you're looking at Thomas Frank. Now he gets more of the ball at Tottenham than at Brentford. He's struggling, and Tottenham look out of ideas in possession. So the way I kind of look at it is, actually, I think we should avoid Glasner and Iraola. I think we should avoid them. Tuchel wouldn't last 5 minutes at this club. He probably wouldn't last at this club because the ownership idiots. I think he would do well if he was backed, but I think he would fall out with the ownership because they're pretty useless. Nagelsmann in the future, but not right now. He's a great coach, but another young Amorim in the making. I agree. I like Nagelsmann, but I think with Nagelsmann, he'll have the same issues Ragnick had. And maybe the same issues Amorim had, where it's very different to what we're used to playing. And unless we're willing to sacrifice a season, spend a lot of money, sacrifice a lot of players, I just don't see it doing well, to be honest. I like Unai Emery and I like Eddie Howe. Unai Emery, I don't think would come to us unless we were willing to give him a lot of power, which Ineos are not willing to give. Eddie Howe I like. Eddie Howe is actually one of my favourite managers in the Premier League. My only question about Eddie Howe is he ready to take a step up? Eddie Howe, what he's done in his managerial career, guys, is incredible. So he was at Bournemouth when they were in League Two, and Bournemouth were facing liquidation. They were on minus points in League Two, and Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall literally paid for cones and coaching equipment themselves because Bournemouth were in such a state. And he took Bournemouth from the bottom of League Two, minus points, all the way up to the Premier League, and kept them in the Premier League for multiple seasons, which has made Bournemouth a financially stable club now. He's then gone to Newcastle. He took over Newcastle when they were in the relegation zone in the Premier League. He then took them to 12th. And then the following season, he went and got them a Champions League finish. The season after that, he struggled because of the injuries and 2 games a week in the Champions League. And I think Newcastle finished 8th. But then the following season, Newcastle got back into the Champions League. And there's now when Newcastle are in 6th. When you think of the players that Newcastle have, when you think of the lack of squad depth at Newcastle, I think Eddie Howe's done a good job. He's made Jacob Murphy look like a fantastic player last season. He's made Fabian Schär, who was there under Steve Bruce, look like a top player. Dan Burn looks like a top player. Like, Eddie Howe is fantastic. But my question is, Eddie Howe can take you to top 4, but can Eddie Howe take you to winning titles? That's my only question. And right now, the priority is probably just getting back in the top 4, getting Champions League football. Eddie Howe is a manager that can take you to a certain level. My only question is, will he be able to take us beyond that level? Is he the guy that would win us titles, or is he the guy that gets us a few third, second place finishes? I mean, right now I'd take a few third, second place finishes to stabilize the ship. But I am a big fan of Eddie Howe. I can't lie. Thank you very much for the super chat. Okay, I'm late. Where's the Don Carlo news? He wants United, and is it a Ten Hag's hair source? Well, it's Duncan Castles, who's a good source, and it's just saying when at Chelsea, Ancelotti confided he was always wanting an opportunity to manage United before he retired, and there is reports that are from Ten Hag hair sources that Ancelotti would want to go to Man United after the World Cup. Again, who knows? But apparently he's open to Man United job. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. How's perfect England? How won't do it with this squad? I don't know. Like, I look at Newcastle. I think we've got a better squad than Newcastle. Like, Newcastle got a better midfield, though. How with our midfield would struggle? Like, when I look at why Newcastle's so good, it's because their midfields are tanks. I think you'd have to give Eddie Howe, like, Elliot Anderson and Baleba. Because you look at Tonali, Jolint, and Bruno Guimaraes, he would need a good midfield, Eddie Howe. But I like him. Emery would never leave Villa where he can become a legend. At United, he would be ruined. Emery would leave Villa if we said to him, we're going to give you loads of control, loads of power, and you can do this, this, and this. But we wouldn't say that to him, so he's not going to leave Villa. Howe wants workhorses. Yeah. I mean, people say tell Howe to bring Gordon with him. We need a left winger, but Gordon's been pretty crap this season. Oh, we've got a 6-year-old in the chat or something. Someone that can't spell. Block you. I'm just having a look at the chat. There's some very strange people. Mostly non-strange though. Hey, where are the laughing Amorim fanboys? Speak up. I will say that there is like an Amorim cult. I get that Amorim. Like when Amorim came in, I feel like we all thought he was going to be the guy. What he did at Sporting, like we were sold this Ruben Amorim dream that failed. But Amorim has more fanboys than Sir Alex Ferguson. It feels like, and I'm like, man came 15th and gave Tottenham a trophy. Like people protecting Amorim as if he'd won 3 Premier League titles with Man United. It's nuts. Eddie likes power, so probably not. To an extent, yeah. Like, again, I don't think Eddie would get on with the hierarchy. He's probably been warned about not going to Man United. Do you like Enrique? I do like Enrique. I feel like he would want a bit of power, though. I wouldn't bring Gordon. If I was to bring anyone from Newcastle, it would be Tonali or Bruno Guimaraes. I wouldn't bring Gordon. But Bruno Guimaraes is Newcastle through and through. Like, I can't see, unless Newcastle had an atrocious season and a title-winning team went in for him, I just cannot see. Bruno Guimaraes leaving Newcastle. I think he's Newcastle through and through. Tonali, but not for Man United. I don't think he'd go to Man United, Tonali. But if I was to bring anyone from Newcastle, that would be it. Like, if I was to go through each Premier League club and name me players that I would bring from those clubs, I mean, in Arsenal, we're looking at Gabriel, Saliba, Declan Rice, Subamende, Saka. We'd all take. City again. We'd probably still take Rodri. Foden's been crap this season, but you take him. Well, he's not been crap this season. He started crap, then was really good for a bit, and has been crap the last few games. Cherky we'd all take. Haaland we'd all take. Villa we'd take. Camara, Tielemans, probably Konza. We don't really need a centre back. Watkins we'd take. Liverpool, I don't know, this season, not many. Ekatike, Gravenberch, Soboslai, we'd all take. I mean, there's a lot of players at other Premier League teams that I would take in a heartbeat, but doesn't mean we're going to get any of them. Brentford, Igor Thiago is doing very well. Would I take anyone from Palace? Wharton or Gay. Forest, obviously Anderson. There's a lot of players I'd love to take, but probably wouldn't get them. Cucurella's a shout as well, to be fair, because if we're going to go to a back four, we're going to need a left back. I'm intrigued to see how Dorgu does in the back four for us, because he does very well there for Denmark. So it'll be interesting to see how Dorgu does end up doing. Benjamin Sesko is better than Gyökeres. They have the same amount of open play goals in the Premier League, despite Sesko playing a lot less minutes and for a worse side. Yeah. Alice, when will they announce the next manager? Honestly, I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you, but I don't know when Man United will announce the next manager, to be honest. It's probably going to be Carrick or Ollie, but I can't tell you that. Listen, people, I'm going to wrap up today's show, but big up everybody tuning in. Thank you for watching. See you later tonight. Bye.